You're listening to Business Talk Radio, where we take business to the next level.
Today's show is sponsored by Dr. Jacalyn. Take charge of your life personally, financially, and professionally. Visit drjacalyn.com to book an appointment today.
Hello and welcome to Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn live here on Business Talk Radio, Facebook Live, and YouTube Live. I am your executive producer and your host for our program. Our show is all about inspiration and hope and stories of overcoming adversity. I am a certified life and career coach. And with me today backstage is my co-host and partner, Al Cini. Welcome to the program, Al.
Thanks for inviting me. As always, Dr. Jacalyn, it's going to be a fun conversation.
It sure will. Al is the managing partner of BCAT, Brand and Cultural Alignment. He is also a TV show host on RVN TV, and he has extensive experience in the media industry.
So much experience.
Are we lucky to have you?
Well, it's always nice to have somebody say they're lucky to have me. And I'm lucky to be here, and I'm very grateful.
Well, it's a true pleasure, as always, to see you. And we have a guest today. I'm very excited about bringing him back from backstage after our first commercial break. His name is Merrick Rosenberg, and he is the CEO of Take Flight Learning. And he's also an author, and we're going to talk a lot about his book. So our focus today is really, and Al, you're aware of this with everything that you do, and now you and I are partnering together to try to help instill brand ambassadorship and cultural awareness and building teams and bringing people together. So one other aspect of that is understanding a person's personality type.
Yeah, definitely. And have you ever taken a DISC assessment yourself, Dr. Jacalyn?
Yes, I definitely have. And I could never remember which of the letters that I was. So.
And, it's since you brought that up, that's exactly, I think, where Merrick comes in, because Merrick has come up with a really innovative way to bring numbers, the DISC report that you get, to life in a memorable and useful way. And that's why I think that's going to be such a great, he uses birds, and those are interesting analogies, and they stick in your head and they work. So it'll be great to learn more about that.
Yes, absolutely. And I was trying to remember what the assessment that I took years ago, what I was from DISC, and I can't even remember what all of those letters necessarily stand for.
Right.
D, dominance, and I, influencer.
Influencer, yep. Steady and conscientious.
Conscientious. So I think I was a DI.
Ah, that sounds like you. I think when I took it, I came out an ID, which is the kind of the opposite. Not exactly the opposite. It's similar, but with a different emphasis. But what did you get when you took Merrick's assessment? Because you what bird are you?
I am a parrot. I'm a full-blown parrot. I was thinking about where's my eagle and where's my dove, but I've never been an owl, I don't think. But I think Merrick will talk a little bit about the different personality types, and also how your personality type might change over time. So apparently now I'm just all parrot.
Wow. Well, I got parrot and eagle, which is very much in line with the DISC assessments I took years ago, only much more memorable and very entertaining. And his assessment report is really easy to read and very easy to follow. And it's not clinical. It's life advice. It's great. Really, really interesting stuff.
It's really humanistic, if you will, as opposed to being scientific or needing to get someone to explain it to you.
Yeah, exactly. I think it just takes that whole
Well, it looks like Al's a little frozen right now, so we'll.
Am I back?
You're back, yes.
Merrick, it's the internet. What can you do?
So, Al, I'm wondering, with your eagle and your peacock, how you feel this plays a role in what it is you do at BCAT.
Eagle, and parrot, and I can tell you the funny combination of the two is that the parrot part, I think, of my results suggests that I'm a people pleaser, that I'm looking to get kind of affirmation from other people for the work that I do. The problem with that is that sometimes you're a little bit too soft in how you play your game and you don't push hard enough. That's where theoretically the ego comes in. And I think sometimes in the work I do, I need to remember that I have both those skills and that I need to use one a little bit more than the other. And that's one of the benefits of working with a concept like Merrick's.
That makes a lot of sense. I kind of feel with my assessment that when I was in corporate America, I was more eagle than I am now. And I can see, since I'm a life coach and interviewing people all the time, how I would be a parrot. You would
have to be more patient. I mean, one of the skills, eagles, I guess, are not necessarily known for their patience and their willingness to wait for other people to get the point. And as a life coach, I think you do need to develop that kind of a skill. I know you have, because you've coached me, and I know you work every day at becoming the kind of correct role model for the people that you coach. And I got to give you a lot of credit for that.
Well, thank you. Just as an aside, I think I told you I'm taking meditation teacher training certification. And one of the things that's become really important is understanding some basic principles that the Buddhists believe in. And I'm not going to derail, but I think that my personality might change even more as a result of being involved in the meditation program.
Well, I'll pay attention and look for that. Good for you.
Excellent. So also Merrick has written some books, and we're going to be taking a look at the books and how one of them, Personality Wins, actually ties into the election. And I found it to be a fascinating read. And I picked out numerous places in the book where I wanted to bring up different points to Merrick about the historical recounting of 22 elections and how they're really determined on personality. So I don't want to steal his thunder, so we'll wait to bring him out. But it's really incredible how from a DISC assessment you can come up with something that people can really relate to and actually feel happy about. You know, when I think to myself, oh, I can picture the birds and I know which one I am, and now I'm starting to assess, you know, what's my mom and how can I best interact with her? And I see why you and I get along so well, because we have that parrot in us.
Well, you know, I without giving it away, I think Merrick is going to tell us which of the candidates he favors, kind of, in the election, just based on personality. So it's not policy; it's personality, and I think that's probably true. I mean, it certainly rings true to me. I don't think anybody, especially in this election, is being particularly logical about how they're going to vote. So I think at the end of the day, people are just going to vote based on the way they feel about the candidates, and that is pure personality.
Absolutely. And we have a couple of Facebook comments here. Al, you are definitely a parrot and an eagle. Now, it's really eagle and parrot, right? That's what you...
I actually got parrot and eagle. So parrot number 1, eagle number 2.
Oh, okay. Perfect.
Yeah, so that's hopefully that's not somebody I owe money to. Thank you for your comment.
I'm going to put you backstage then if that's the case. No, I'm kidding.
No,
and here we have another comment. Merrick's is far more memorable than DISC assessment.
Oh, definitely. I think that's a real contribution to the state of the art.
Absolutely. So I think what we're going to do right now is we're going to go to commercial break, and then we're going to bring Merrick out, and we're going to hear all about the wonderful things that he's doing. So stay tuned. We're going to hear from our sponsors, and we'll be right back on Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn, live on Business Talk Radio, Facebook, and YouTube.
Hey everybody, my name is Ralph Graves Jr. I'm the host of the Ralph Graves Jr. Show, and I want to invite you to pick up my book, Unstoppable. I wrote a book called Unstoppable. It's 7 universal laws that will transform how you pursue and achieve success. The one thing that my 20 years of law enforcement has taught me is that no matter who you are, we are all governed by universal laws, like gravity. But in this book, we're going to talk about laws like the law of forgiveness, laws like the law of control, the law of intelligent practice, the law of expectancy. I was able to see how those, no matter what their background was, those who identified and treated these laws with respect, they were able to go on and lead successful lives. So pick up this book, and you can go ahead and pick it up at Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, RalphGravesJr.com, where anywhere where fine books are sold. Thank you.
There are 7.7 billion people on Earth today. 40% of these people are under the age of 25. Young adults are the most fertile mission field in the world today. In Scripture, we see Jesus pouring his life into 12 young adults who he equipped to change the world and all of history. Like Jesus, we believe that the best approach to reach the world with the gospel is to invest in young, emerging leaders and equip them to build disciple-making movements. Concentric is the notion of surrounding and sharing a common center. Our center is the model and strategy of Jesus for both leadership development and ministry formation. As a global alliance, we provide equipping in biblical leadership based on Jesus' example in the New Testament. Jesus modeled for us how to make disciples that reproduce. Focusing on leadership development is key to creating movements that spread the gospel and Jesus' disciple-making strategy to young leaders around the globe. Our Ministry Alliance partners are actively equipping leaders and building movements of multiplication that reproduce the life of Christ. Join us today to equip young leaders with Jesus' strategy that will change cities and nations.
The session that we had with BCAT was really entertaining and enlightening. We were able to put together some very specific steps that we as individuals can take, and it was really fun to all come together and see sort of where we're going as a team and how we can all get there together.
We had a tremendous experience with the BCAT partners. One of the challenges that we have as an organization is to make sure that we have the right people in the right chairs doing the right thing. To do that well, you have to have synergy. You can try to dream up ways to make sure that your group does that, or you can rely on experts. We would recommend BCAT partners to anybody who's looking to take their organization to the next level.
Academy Sedan and Limo is a full-service transportation company serving the Philadelphia metropolitan area with full knowledge of the New York City, Baltimore, and Washington, D.C. areas. We pride ourselves on being the most dependable, conscientious company in the industry. Our always on-time service and dependable pricing make us the company to call for any event or occasion. Our vehicles can accommodate any size party for any occasion. Our vehicles range from four-door sedans to SUVs to minivans to limo buses to full-size tour buses and can accommodate groups of 2 to 100. We offer airport shuttle service or over-the-road service without limitation regarding mileage or time, and no drive is too long or too far. So if you find yourself in need of transportation of any type with any vehicle, give us a call at 610-842-4564 and let us show you what a real transportation company can do for you.
Use code ACADEMY2020 to receive 20% off your first 3 rides, including parking and tolls.
Ladies and gentlemen, here it is, the most listened to radio show on the planet. Even the other stations are tuned in too.
You're listening to Business Talk Radio, where we take business to the next level.
Welcome back. Here we are. Glad you stayed around through the commercial break, Al.
It was a rough haul, but here I am.
Excellent. So let's bring Merrick out and wait no longer. Here he is. Welcome to the program, Merrick.
Rosenberg.
Great to see both of you.
It's great to see you too. You're looking well.
I'm ready.
I like the birds behind you.
They follow me wherever I go.
I'm going to bring up that Facebook comment because I think it's such a great comment and it's so accurate. Merrick's Way is far more memorable than disc assessments. Merrick, where did you get the idea to use birds to represent personality?
Well, I taught personality styles for about 20 years, and I was thinking to myself, I've got to come up with something that's just more memorable. I would go into companies, teach people about their styles using DISC, using the disc model. And then I'd meet them 2 months later, and they'd say, oh, I loved that session. It was awesome. I'm the D. Wait, which one is that again? And I'm like, all right, you're killing me. If you can't remember it, then how can you be using it? And so I wanted something more visual, something memorable, something you didn't have to memorize, that you just intuitively grasp the concept that an eagle is take charge, and a parrot is social and talkative, and a dove is compassionate, and an owl is logical. Just something easy and visual.
It's really, really simple. And I guess we're going to be using that a lot in the conversation. So again, what are the birds? I mean, eagle is the forceful, eagle is D, I guess.
Yeah, they would match the D style. The eagles are those take charge people. They're confident, they're direct, they call it like it is. They're all about results. They want to make things happen, and they want to make things happen now. And then if you think of a parrot, well, what do you think of? If you thought of a parrot, a person has the personality of a parrot, what do you think you would be like?
Squawking, talking, outgoing, extroverted. Yep. That sounds like Dr. Jacalyn.
You know what's funny? I have to be honest. For whatever reason, before I took your test, I thought I was a peacock.
Well, they're very colorful.
You're still saying peacock, but parrot, right? You got that.
Right.
That's kind of a pretty parrot.
Absolutely. And then, so how about the dove? When you think of a dove, what comes to mind?
Warm, compassionate, empathetic.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
And you don't have to memorize that. It's already there for you. It's already intuitive. Yeah. They're compassionate, they're caring, they're helpful. They just want everyone to get along. And how about an owl? When you think of an owl, what comes to mind?
The word wise.
Wise, smart.
Right.
Their head swivels around. They see everything.
Yeah, they're observant. They're just taking in knowledge and information and data, and they have a system and a plan. And for them, if they're going to do something, they're going to do it right. And it's easy because, like I said, you don't have to memorize those characteristics. You think of an eagle and you picture confidence. You picture an owl and it's logical.
How do you combine them to make a personality?
Well, just like you had said earlier, your style is the parrot and an eagle. That's my style as well. When you mix both of those, they're bigger energy, they're outgoing, they're fast-paced. They may not be as patient. They want things to happen now. They're spontaneous, they're risk takers, a lot of enthusiasm. So when you take two styles, they all combine. I mean, nobody's just one of these. You're a combination of all four.
Okay. And you could change.
Right. Yes, we had discussed that.
Yeah, over time, picture someone who's like they graduate college and they're an owl and an eagle, but maybe that owl is pretty strong and maybe just a slight secondary eagle, and they're an accountant, and they day one right out of school, their first job, they're in the weeds. I mean, they've got their desk filled with receipts and data. But if you fast forward 25 years down the road in their career, and they're the CFO of a 250 person company, well, they're not in the weeds anymore. They're looking at cash flow and budgets and finance and investments. And eagles are much more big picture. So that person throughout their career may have started as an owl eagle, but now they're more of an eagle owl. So the role that we're in can often change our personality style.
And how did you get started with Take Flight Learning?
It grew out of Team Builders Plus, which was one of the first team building companies in the United States. And so at the time it was fun. We were teaching people how to get along, how to work together. And I discovered the personality styles through the DISC model and taught that for many years. And then from there, the birds flew into my world and grew Take Flight Learning out of that.
I love that the birds flew into my world. That's fantastic because you can really visualize that.
Yeah, and they're so easy. I taught them to my kids when my kids were 6 years old. We could go to a restaurant and the waiter or waitress takes our drink order and they're like, "Oh, he's an eagle." She is an owl. In seconds, they just immediately get it. And I always say, look, if 6-year-old kids could get it, we can get it.
Wow. Actually, that raises a really good point. You need to be able to read other people to be successful in life. You can't always ask them to stop, take a few minutes, and take Merrick's survey to learn what bird they are. You've got to watch their behavior to try to identify the kind of birds they are, what their personality is, and then you adapt the way you communicate with them. Is that right?
That's right. And the beauty of that is that once you get a sense of these four birds, and look, for most people, they may have just learned them a moment ago, but I'll give you an example. If I were to say someone like a Princess Diana, when you think of her style, what comes to mind? Which of these four birds?
And that would be dove.
Right, exactly. But you got it like in an instant. How about like an Arnold Schwarzenegger? What do you think?
That would be kind of an eagle parrot, I would say.
Yeah, exactly. Right, strong eagle, and he's got that parrot in there too, but it's secondary. How about like a Robin Williams?
Definitely parrot.
You get it. How about Bill Gates?
Definitely owl.
Owl. Yes.
Notice what you just did. You could just have known these for a moment, and all of a sudden, you're right. You didn't have to have them take an assessment. You just thought about them, and in a blink moment, you're like, I get it. I can see it. I can read it. And if you can read people fast, you can flex and adapt and satisfy their needs, treat them the way they need to be treated. And you know what happens when they get their needs met is we get our needs met too.
Oh. Now, the book we wrote, The Chameleon, is it basically about how to shift your style to communicate better with other people?
Yeah, it's about understanding yourself, because the most self-aware people tend to be the happiest. But it's really about understanding yourself and understanding others. I think for a long time, people have taken personality assessments and it's all about me. It's all about my style. And it's a model and it's a graph and it's a report. I wanted to shift that focus to, okay, yes, you have to understand yourself, but how are you impacting the people around you? Are you imposing your personality on them, or are you treating them the way they want to be treated?
That's so important.
It is important.
And so you wrote The Chameleon, and you also wrote Personality Wins. And share with us the rest of that title.
So Personality Wins is Personality Wins, Who Will Take the White House and How We Know. So I had this vision of, I wonder if you could use the birds to figure out who would win a presidential election. And I had this theory that because eagles and parrots have that outsized big personality, would they beat owls and doves, who tend to be more reserved? And I started working it back in time, looking at the elections in the 2000s. And then I was like, wow, it still works in the 90s and the 80s and the 70s and the 60s and 50s and 40s and 30s. I made it all the way back to 1932, 22 elections in a row. When eagles and parrots go against doves or owls, the big energy of the eagle and parrot wins every time.
Really? That's interesting. Well, maybe not all that surprising. So
we tune into personality. We think we're voting for platform and ideology and policy, but in reality, we're looking at people when there's presidential debates and you see the pundits talk about it afterwards. They're not as much even talking about policy. They're talking about how did they show up? How did they look tonight? What did you get from them? How were they? And what they're really talking about is their personality, because that's what we tune into.
Yeah, well, that's
Merrick, how long did it take you to do your research and write the book?
It was the speed version of writing a book. I wrote it in about 3 months.
Oh my gosh.
And the funny thing was I read a lot of books, but I also listened to 32 books in that time. But I discovered that I can't listen to them at normal speed because I will never get it done. So I dialed it up and I was listening to it first at like 1.5 times. And then I got to like twice the speed. Whoa. And it was so funny because as I'm talking to people, I'm like, because I'm so used to hearing them these books in like chipmunk mode that I'm like, you're talking to me way too slowly. If you want to talk to me, you gotta speed it up. For a period of time, I was like, I need you to just talk to me fast because I've got a lot to do and I need to listen faster. So it was very funny as I was writing the book.
It is pretty funny, but you have to do that if you're going to go back to 1932 and study every election.
Oh yeah, and what was funny was I listened to some of the debates, and you have kind of that eagle and parrot. They were faster paced styles. They talk faster, and the doves and owls are more even or steady paced. They talk slower. And when I was listening to the George W. Bush versus the Al Gore debates, Al Gore spoke so slowly that I could listen to him at like 3 times the speed. but George W. Bush was only about twice the speed. So it was pretty fascinating. I actually could see the styles play out in how quickly they spoke and how fast I could listen to them. It was very funny.
Wow. Okay, so now you get to make a big prediction.
Well, if you look at what's happening in the election, you've got Donald Trump, obviously a dove, right? Clearly the eagle. We get it. He's an eagle. He's always been the eagle.
Actually, Donald Trump is the truck that ran over the dove.
Right. Look, I've always joked. I said Donald Trump is like an eagle on steroids, and now he actually is. I mean,
he is.
That's a good one.
For the next week or so, that's actually a true statement.
Good point.
But he is. He's like a lot of eagle energy. Now, Biden is fascinating because Biden is always been that parrot. Big smile, big charisma, big chuckle, laugh. But lately, throughout this campaign, they've focused on his dove. It's almost like they're tuning into that empathy or that compassionate part of his personality, creating that empathy gap between him and Donald Trump. And so you watch the convention, that was the one word you heard over and over was empathy. And if you think about it, I'm not sure about that strategy. Eagles beat doves. They've done that in every election where an eagle has challenged a dove in a presidential election. So, but I would think they're doing it because they're slowing him down. When Biden, and he's done this his whole career, when Biden gets into that fast-paced parrot mode and he's on a roll, he makes verbal gaffes. He's done it his whole career. And so I think what they're doing is saying, hey, slow him down. Let's get him into dove mode. He doesn't tend to make mistakes there, which then can get mischaracterized as cognitive decline. Let's just let him be the dove. It's part of who he is. And that'll showcase a difference between him and Trump. So it's a very interesting difference in personalities between the styles and between the candidates.
It's interesting. You just brought up the downsides of each of the birds too, because parrot could step on himself, make mistakes, gaffes, and
those eagles, when they get into an overuse of eagle mode, they become too much eagle. It's almost like the directness becomes too blunt and insensitive. The confidence can become arrogance or narcissism. And we see that with all of the styles. When even the dove, I mean, when you dial up love, it becomes smothering. It's like the grandmother who's putting food on your plate and you're saying, no, I'm good, I'm done. And they're like, eat, take more. Here, you can afford it. Here, bring it home with you. It's love, but it's just too much love.
It's just too much love.
Right.
Yeah, and owls too, they become the perfectionists. They can't finish something. They can't make decisions because it has to be so perfect. So when you take any style and dial them up too much, your greatest asset becomes your greatest liability.
Wow.
That makes sense. We need to take a short break. I love this conversation. We're going to pick it back up. But first, we're going to hear from our sponsors. So stay with us on Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn.
Thanks, Merrick. Great work.
Yes.
Have you just lost your job or have been laid off and you are looking to transition to a new job or career? Maybe you have even tried submitting tons of applications and yet you keep getting turned down for jobs you qualify for. Don't wait until you become overwhelmed with rejections when you can easily transition or get your dream job. Let MJW Careers guide you to the right career path and a better, brighter future. At MJW Careers, we know what hiring managers are looking for, and our goal is to land you the job you deserve. What makes MJW Careers a wonderful provider over other services is our pragmatic and scientific approach to resume writing. There are rules, there are visual cues, there are content best practices. We understand those and work within the boundaries to ensure our clients' messaging appeals to the decision makers. Our career consultants will help you transition into new roles quickly and effectively. With our experience in virtually every industry, we will provide direction in the frustrating job market by helping you write a customized, professional resume and prepare you for your interview as well. Join the great number of people we have helped scale up to greater things in their careers. Let us help you on your career journey. Come visit us, www.jobstickers.com, to learn more and grab a free resume review or ebook.
Hey everybody, my name is Ralph Graves Jr. I am the author of this book called Unstoppable. Now, what Unstoppable is about is it's 7 universal laws that will transform how you pursue and achieve success. Why don't you pick up your copy today? Go to my website, www.ralphgravesjr.com. Go to Amazon. This book is sold wherever fine books are sold, anywhere in the country. My name is Ralph Graves. Let's be unstoppable together.
RVN TV is a platform for people of any industry to share their story. Over 285,000 viewers are tuning in to RVN TV shows monthly. We guarantee a great experience that you'll be sharing with everyone you know while increasing your personal and company's brand awareness. But what is your brand? According to Forbes, it's a combination of your logo, your product, your design and feel, and your personality. Did you know that aside from being a guest, we offer even more opportunity to boost your brand? Adding your company logo and website on screen during your interview will allow viewers to recognize your brand instantly. Incorporating images and video clips is another great way to showcase your product during your live segment. Let viewers see how good you really are. And most importantly, there's you and your interview. For less than the cost of a newspaper, direct mail, or a magazine ad, you can leave our studio and within 48 hours have a permanent digital copy of your live segment to link to your social media, embed into your company website, or use in email marketing. Investing in your brand is so very important, and we can't wait to have you as a guest.
Ladies and gentlemen, here it is, the most listened to radio show on the planet. Even the other stations are tuned in too.
You're listening to Business Talk Radio, where we take business to the next level.
Today's show is sponsored by Dr. Jacalyn. Take charge of your life personally, financially, and professionally. Visit drjacalyn.com to book an appointment today.
Welcome back, guys.
Great to be back, Dr. Jacalyn.
It's good to see both of you. We are live on Business Talk Radio, Facebook Live, and YouTube Live. My co-host Al Cini is with me, and also our special guest, Merrick Rosenberg, who is the CEO of Take Flight Learning. So we were just having a lively conversation about your book, and I noticed that Al asked you a very direct question. Al, shame on you about who he thought was going to win.
Who's going to win? Everybody wants to know who's going to win.
You have to buy the book.
I guess I do.
So one thing that I think is interesting about your book, I mean, there's many things interesting, but the fact that you wrote it, you finished writing it in 2019, in October, I think, and yet you had no idea what was going to happen to this world, this crazy world that we live in, and yet everything pretty much still reigns true because of the fact that it's based on personality.
Yeah, and personality plays out in everything we do. We've seen it play out in elections for a long time, and so the beauty of the book is it's really not about politics. It's really about the characters of who are on that stage, and it's a lot of fun. I tried to capture stories and moments that showed their humanity, not the stories that everyone knows, but those little moments that you see. Oh, that's a parrot moment for a president. That's an owl moment, and it's a lot of fun.
No. Dr. Jacalyn, I have a question for you. I'm speaking on behalf of coaches out there, people who coach people. How useful do you think a tool like this would be in your professional life?
Oh, I think it would definitely be very useful because I just spoke to someone today who is really lost and wants to get into the workforce, but doesn't really know what her personality style is, what it is she's really looking for. So this would be outstanding. I mean, I think that you could use something like this in every business and also individually as a person to use with your friends and your family so that you understand how people react, what people think, and how you're interacting with them.
Yeah, in fact, one of the things that are coming soon, it'll be coming early next year, which I'm just so excited about, is I'm creating an assessment that is for children. So what happens is a child can take it, and then you get 3 sections. A section for the child that talks about their superpower, who are they, and what do they bring to the world, what are their gifts, and then a section for the parents. All right, how do you parent that child who's probably different from you and you just don't understand them? And then a section for the teachers or coaches. How do you teach or coach that child? So I just think that if we can bring this to people, whether it's in a company or whether it's in your personal life or whether it's a child, when people understand themselves, they lead happier lives.
Wow. That would be a great tool for a child study team. I've met with a bunch, and sorting people out is one of the primary challenges they face all the time. It would be great to have a tool like this to help out. That's great, Merrick.
Yeah, and it's so good for the child, but it's also good for parents, and it would be great for teachers as well. So it's fun because I usually live in the corporate world, so this will be nice to be able to share the birds with children as well.
Yeah, that's great.
Absolutely. And imagine if, as a child, you understood your personality and who you are instead of waiting until you get older and you don't know who you are. If you knew all along, think about the benefits of that.
I watch my kids talk about it. When they were in school, they were talking about like their friends, their teachers. I remember going to back to school nights, and when one of my sons was in high school, and he'd be like, "Okay, this teacher's an owl, this teacher's a parrot, this is an eagle," and I'd be sitting there texting him. I'm like, "Yep, that's an eagle. Oh, that's definitely an owl."
That is cool. You can, once you get the hang of it, it doesn't take long. You could spot them pretty quickly, and that mindfulness, that kind of bringing back the complexities of a human being back to the simplicities of your model, I think is a great way to understand other people.
Yeah, I remember this moment once where my son came home, and it was his first day of 6th grade, and he said to me, "Math is going to be very hard this year," and I was puzzled by that because he's a parrot, but he's very good at math. He liked math, and I said, "Why do you say that?" And he looked at me and he said, "My teacher is an owl, and she's going to make us show all of our work." Because how do parrots do math? It just kind of appears, it arises for them.
This just feels good. That's
I got it. And you think about it. If a kid, when he's about 12 years old, can understand, and he did very well that year, but he had to work for it, and he knew he was going to have to do that. He didn't dislike the teacher. He said, "Look, I don't dislike her. She's an owl. But that's going to be hard for me." So there was no judgment of the teacher. There was no judgment of the class. He just recognized what he would need to do to succeed. And imagine if we as adults had that ability to recognize other people. If you're a salesperson and you can recognize, all right, I'm a parrot, they're an owl. All right, I know how I have to sell this person. Or you're a leader and you're an eagle and you're leading doves. Okay, I understand the kind of a culture I need to create for them. Or you're a parent and your style is different than your child or spouse. When you understand the styles, personality plays out everywhere. So it allows us to build stronger relationships everywhere we go.
And that's a good point too, Merrick. You can be successful no matter which of these 4 birds is your dominant personality type.
And that's really important to recognize. And one of the things I often share when I talk to leaders is I say, look, your personality does not determine how successful you will be, but it does determine how you're going to go about being successful. And I always like to give them a few examples. I'll say, look, I mentioned Bill Gates or Warren Buffett. These are self-made billionaires. They were owls. How about Steve Jobs, self-made billionaire, eagle. Howard Schultz from Starbucks, he is the dove. How about like a Richard Branson, the parrot. Okay, these are 4 self-made billionaires, all different styles. They went about it very differently, but all incredibly successful. And I want people to recognize that your style isn't going to determine how successful you'll be, but it's going to determine how you go about achieving your goals and go about being successful.
That is, I think that's a great way to put it. And I just wanted to say, I grew up in an urban inner city neighborhood, and I had 2 choices if I wanted to survive that experience. I could beat the other kids up and be an eagle, or I could talk my way out of fights and become a parrot. And I think today I'm a parrot eagle exactly because that's the way I grew up.
Parrots can sell anything. They can schmooze their way out of anything.
That was me.
I'd love to hear your background and how you grew up and what your experiences were that led you to take flight. You share with us how you started it, but what happened before that?
Right in college, I'd gotten an internship and I was working at a company, and I thought I wanted to be a management consultant, and I was working as a management consultant, and I was restructuring workflow and redesigning the workplace. And I went in and I was like, you know what? I'm watching these environments, even when I'm 20 years old, and I'm looking and I'm like, this place is so toxic. Nobody likes the manager. They don't trust each other. And I recognized very quickly that I wanted to focus on the environment, on the culture, teach people how to work together, teach managers how to be better managers. And so from that experience, I immediately recognized this was not for me, but what I did want to do was help people to create a better environment and build stronger relationships, and went back and got an MBA in organizational behavior. And from there, started one of the first team building companies, Team Builders Plus, in the whole United States.
Wow. That's quite a story.
Congratulations. That's really tremendous.
Definitely.
We need to take another commercial break, guys. So I hope you'll stay around through the commercial.
I'm not going anywhere.
All right. We will be right back after these messages from our sponsors.
Have you ever tried to build people into a team? Maybe you've tried bowling, or ziplining, or paintball, or pizza making. These events can be fun, and they can make everybody happy for a while. But in the long run, do they really turn people into a team? Now, imagine the members of your team scattered all over the world, working from trains and airplanes, from remote offices, client locations, or working from home. How do you build a winning team when your playing field might be the entire world? With BCAT, we've created the answer. Working completely online, no matter where your people are, we turn them into an engaged and motivated team in 3 simple steps. First, we use the BCAT survey, which they can take online, anywhere, anytime, to reveal the North Star that represents their shared pride in the work they do. Next, we work with your team's leaders and stakeholders to convert that North Star into a role target, an ideal virtual person who represents your team's best self, living its best day at work. With our internet tools, we hang your North Star high in the sky, where everyone on your team can see it, no matter where in the world they might be. Then we guide and help everyone on your team in creating personal plans to align themselves with your team's North Star. We help each of them develop the positive habits that, day by day, every day, steer them closer to your North Star, aligning themselves with your team's signature dreams and ideals. And over the long haul, we offer programs and coaching techniques that help them stick to their plans. Remote team building isn't hard. It doesn't take long. And it's just as much fun as pizzas and paintball. You build winning teams around a purpose, not a place. BCAT is the answer.
Ladies and gentlemen, here it is the most listened to radio show on the planet. Even the other stations are tuned in too.
You're listening to Business Talk Radio, where we take business to the next level.
Welcome back to
Go
Rapping
out
with
and
Dr.
get that
Jacalyn.
book.
Can I just say
Personality
something?
wins.
I
What a
love that commercial. That,
Oh, thank you.
first of all, aside from just seeing all of the old photos of presidents and the messaging, the music, I just feel like, oh my gosh, everything that's crazy going on in the world, I am still proud to be an American.
I wanted music that was like, I was trying to describe it to the folks who were putting that together for me. And I said, I want you to picture like an eagle flying over the mountains and what that would sound like. And they absolutely nailed it.
Yeah,
Fantastic. It's really great.
Merrick, you often hear that one of the great attributes of somebody in business is that they're authentic, that they're who they are. And not pretending to be somebody you're not is kind of one of the definitions of authentic. How do I use your approach to be a more authentic version of myself?
It is important. You have to be who you are. I always tell people, look, you may be flexing to meet the needs of somebody around you, but that's just for a moment. You've got to be true to your personality. And I'll give you an example. Like if I'm a parrot and I'm giving feedback to an owl, and I walk into their office and I say, you were amazing. Great energy, effort, passion, enthusiasm. Loved what you did. Great work. That may be great feedback for me as a parrot, but that's not going to resonate with an owl. And so I'm still being authentic to myself. If I say, you know what, I want to satisfy the needs of that other individual. So I walk into the owl's office and I say, I want to thank you for what you did on that project. Let me walk you through a few things that you did that I really appreciated. And you give them specific detail, dial down the energy. It's not that you're not being authentic to yourself. You're honoring who they are. You're flexing to their style just for a moment. But the reality is, most of the day, you're going to be displaying your natural style because you just can't help it. You are who you are. And so you've got to try to live your truest and highest self. You can't try to be somebody else. That doesn't work.
And I think Al and I have talked about this before. I certainly have known people in the business world, and they have one personality when they're in business mode, and then they have a completely different one when they're not. And so I've always thought to myself, this person really isn't being authentic. And it kind of steered me away from being friends with them because I thought they're not being genuine.
Well, it takes energy, first of all. If you have to work out of your style for an extended period of time, it's absolutely exhausting. And so people generally can't sustain that for a long period of time because it takes too much energy to do it. And sometimes we do have to flex to the culture we're in. Like, let's say you're an owl dove, but you're in an environment, in a culture that's very parrot eagle. It's fast paced, it's quick. You've got to make fast decisions. It may not be a great culture for you, but I'll bet you when you are in the workplace, you do flex to that style because you have to, or else you're not going to succeed. So it is true that sometimes we do act a little differently in the workplace. Sometimes the role requires it. Sometimes the culture requires it. But if you're working out of your style, it will drain you because you're not being true to yourself.
I like your use of the word flex because what you're really doing, I guess, is expressing respect for somebody else to earn their respect in return. Not pretending to be somebody you're not, but recognizing that they're not you and that they deserve a little bit of respect.
Yeah, and if I do adapt to you and I flex to your style just for a moment, if I'm an eagle and I'm talking to a dove, and a dove, I come home and my spouse is the dove, and she says to me, I had a horrible day, and here's what my day was like. If I stay in eagle mode and I say, you know what you should do? You should go in there. You know what? Give me the phone. I will do this for you right now. I will fix it. That's not what the dove needs. What you have to do is say, look, I want to satisfy your needs too. And so the eagle has to learn to say, it sounds like you had a hard day. It sounds very frustrating or sounds very upsetting. And you have to learn how to flex. We don't live in a different style, but just for those moments, those people who are the most adaptable and flexible, also, those are the folks, as I said it earlier about self-awareness, self-aware people can be very flexible and adaptable. And when they are, those people build strong relationships.
And thanks for sharing that, Merrick. I'm wondering if someone wants to partner with your company, Take Flight Learning, what does that process look like?
Well, there's two different ways. One, we go into companies and we run training programs for them. Sometimes you have a company, a big corporation that has internal trainers, and we certify them to deliver the training so they can teach people about the birds. And we have all different programs. There's a foundational course where you learn about yourself, but there's also a leadership course called Chameleon Leadership, where you learn how to be a flexible, adaptable leader. There's chameleon selling. There's rediscovering conflict and innovating ideas. And there's also for coaches, people who are coaching others. Like if you're an executive coach, we teach coaches how to infuse the birds into their coaching practice. Most coaches have learned personality styles, but they don't know how to incorporate them into their coaching world. So we actually certify people on all of those training programs, and we certify coaches to deliver training or coaching themselves.
Great.
Yeah, that's terrific. I'll be talking to you about that later. So, Merrick, you've been quite in demand because of the book that you've written. You've done a number of interviews because everybody wants to know who you think is going to win the election. And I think this book is something everyone should pick up. I read it over the weekend and I couldn't put it down, actually. How can people buy your book?
You can go online, Barnes & Noble, Amazon, especially wherever online books are sold. You can find it everywhere.
Wonderful. So what's next for you? You mentioned about children, working with children.
Yeah, it's building out a children's profile. It's really just looking forward to getting back out there. I spend a lot of my time speaking at conferences around the world. I've spoken in 47 states in the U.S. and a lot of countries around the world. And I think what's next is just getting back to, quote, normal and getting on the stage and interacting with lots of people and sharing the birds with the world. I would be very happy with that.
Now, in the meantime, though, you are able to do what you do virtually. And I'm sure you're doing plenty of that via Zoom.
I'm living in a Zoom world and running both conference keynotes, and my team members in Take Flight Learning are running a lot of training programs, teaching the birds, even doing virtually. It's a lot of fun. If there's any topic that's infinitely interesting, it is ourselves. So people want to learn about themselves, and it does work virtually.
You know, what I'm wondering is, I'm going to put this out to both of you. I'm wondering, during this pandemic, with 4 different types of birds, 4 different types of personalities, do you think that there are 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or none that acclimate in a healthier way or more effectively during the pandemic than others?
I think they've adapted differently. I think eagles kicked into gear, and when things started going down and people were getting locked down, the quarantine hit, eagles were like, okay, here's what we need to do. We need to make sure we're safe as a company and our family. Owls started reading and watching everything. They got every bit of data. Doves were calling their friends and family members. Are you okay? How are you? Parrots were trying to make everybody, keep the positive spirit up and find the silver lining. And so I think they all reacted in a different way, but it's not like one can reacted better or acclimated faster. I think they responded differently based on their personality.
That makes sense. I can envision that. I know, because myself, I was in a lockdown for 62 days, but yet inside my home, it was just like life was going on. I turned the apartment into a gym, and I was walking around the kitchen 2 miles, and I was doing every Zoom thing you possibly could and helping people. And so, Al, what about you?
Well, I remember I was locked down for about 62 minutes and couldn't take it anymore. So I found ways to sneak outside, avoid people, get around. I am, as a parrot and an eagle, I am patience challenged. So time is my enemy. I've always seen it that way, and fighting, it's always a race against time for me. So it's been difficult, frankly. It's been a little harder, I think, on me than it might be on a lot of other people.
Yeah, I think parrots had a hard time. The phrase, they're so social. The word social distancing is just an oxymoron for the parrot. And I have a good friend who's an owl, and he said to me, I have been preparing for this my whole life. He's like, I got some books. I'm ready to go.
There is really something to be said about the whole socializing, because I am a very social person. And prior to COVID, I was over at Seasons 52 in Cherry Hill. I was there 4 nights a week, working the bar, talking to people. And now I'm sort of like in a lockdown with my mother, which is great. But, the parrot in me wants to fly and and go back to having fun.
I think we're getting to know the people in our lives in a different way. You mentioned earlier that sometimes our work's personality is different than our home personality, and I think people are getting to see our spouse's work personalities, and we're like, who is that person? Like, who? I don't even know you, because we never hear those work conversations all day long. So that, I think, has been a fascinating ride throughout this process.
Yeah. Interesting. Merrick, as you go through life and you meet different people, what are most people? Are most people doves or owls or?
Yeah, it depends where you are. When you travel around the world, there are certain countries that have a predominance of one style. And you probably can even guess it. If you picture Ireland and go into an Irish pub, what style do you think is the predominant style in Ireland?
That feels like parrot to me.
Parrot.
Absolutely. But you go into a place, think of like German engineering. They're more owl with secondary eagle.
Mm-hmm.
How about Switzerland? When you think of Switzerland,
that feels like owl dove to me.
Yeah, exactly right. Very dove with some secondary owl. They're both very strong. You picture like a lot of Middle Eastern countries. Israel, for example, is a very eagle culture. And you travel around the world, and different countries have different styles. In the United States, if you circled the outer border of our country, and if you think about what is the pace of places like Boston, New York, Philadelphia, Baltimore, DC. I mean, it will skip the Carolinas and head down to Orlando and Miami and Atlanta and Houston and LA and San Diego. I mean, picture you just circle the country and Detroit and Chicago. What's the pace of those cities versus Kansas or Iowa or Montana or Wyoming? Can you feel the difference?
Interesting. Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there are more eagles and parrots in that outer circle, in the outer boundaries of the US versus that inner space which is kind of like that flyover country. The pace is slower, and there's more doves and owls in the central part of the country. So it depends where you are. You can feel it. You go into a city, it has a different energy than if you were on a farm and 50 miles outside of the city. The energy is different, and the styles of what draws those people are different.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, because you think about you travel all around the world and you can see it. You can see it in different countries. You can see it in different states. It's a lot of fun. Once you have a sense of the styles, you see it everywhere.
Wow, that's impressive. And this is such an interesting and engaging conversation. I want to talk about engaging, because getting people into this is a big part of what you do, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, if you think about what you talk about a company and you want to create an engaging environment, you want to engage the workforce. So many companies are taking engagement surveys. And what happens is if you look at what is the definition of engagement? Well, and when you think of creating an engaging environment, it's that alignment between performance and satisfaction. So in other words, if you're creating an engaging culture, they're productive and they're happy. Well, okay, productive is great. But if you have someone who's incredibly productive and they're not happy, they're not engaged. And if you have someone who's really happy, but they get nothing done all day long, they're not engaged. But when you have someone who loves the culture, loves the environment, and is performing at their optimal level, that's engagement. And when you understand the personality styles, you can put yourself in a position where you're going to be engaged into a culture that you're going to thrive in. If you're a leader, you can create a culture that will engage the people around you. So creating an engaging environment is critical. That's what, if you've ever worked in a place where you just went home every day and you just were drained, that wasn't engaging. And when then you maybe found a job like what you're doing now, and you're feeling like, I can breathe again, because it's created an engaging environment for you.
I've worked in those places, so I can relate. And I guess one other question is, when you promote somebody to manager from being a worker, how important is it for them to learn these skills so that they can be a more effective leader?
It's foundational. A lot of times what happens is we take the number one salesperson, and what is the next logical step in your career? We promote you to sales manager.
Right.
Well,
That always
managing those who sell and selling are two fundamentally different skill sets. I mean, if it were true that a good performer at a skill would make the best manager in every sport, the managers and the coaches of those teams would be the superstars of the past 25, 30 years. And that's not true at all. So it's a different skill set that you have to have. And as a leader, you have to make sure that you're creating a culture in which people will thrive instead of just creating a culture for you, which is often what happens. And then you end up losing people through turnover. And you're like, I don't understand. I guess it's just not a good culture fit. No, it's just that you're not creating a great environment for everyone. You're creating an environment for you, for people like you.
Great point.
I think that's a great way to summarize what it is you're doing there at Take Flight Learning. And our time is up, believe it or not. And I'm just so thrilled that you could be with us today, Merrick, knowing that you're so in demand and that your book is so hot that it's flying off the shelves. Tell us again where we can get your book.
So you can get both Personality Wins or The Chameleon. You can get them online. You get them on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, especially wherever online books are sold, since we're not necessarily walking into as many bookstores as we used to.
Great books.
Well, thank you again for being with us, and we wish you a lot of success and a lot of fun in the rest of your interviews. And I'm going to look forward to hearing what other people have to say after they go out and buy your book, too. So thanks for being with us, Merrick.
Thank you for having me.
Great having you, Merrick. Thank you.
So, Mr. Cini, it's a pleasure seeing you, and I'm really excited to be partnering with BCAT. Do you want to share with our viewers and listeners what that looks like?
Sure. I mean, in a sense, we've already talked about it. I mean, where Merrick has created a terrific tool for understanding personalities of individuals. What we do with BCAT in a similar way is to try to actually identify the personality that reflects an organization or a team or a group's best self living its best day at work. So I could see a lot of synergy between what Merrick is writing about and what Merrick is doing and what we're doing. We're doing it for groups, for teams, as a personality, and he's doing it for individuals. And I think you need to do both.
I agree. Any final words, my friend?
None for me, except get out and vote. However you vote, vote for the best personality. Get out and vote.
Get out and vote. Very well said. Well, thank you again to our viewers on Facebook Live and YouTube Live. And of course, thanks always to Chris at Business Talk Radio on Long Island. Thank you for being there and producing this for us. So that's a wrap for today. Thank you again. We'll see you next week.